Love is complex. It isn't always warm hugs, endless texts, or constant reassurance. Sometimes the one who loves you the most is the one who seems to keep their distance. And that's not because they don't care, it's because love expresses itself in ways we don't always understand. Love doesn't always show up with bells and whistles. We often think love is about being showered with affectionate words of affirmation all the time. But love isn't always a performance, it's not always something that you see or hear clearly. Sometimes love is quiet, subtle, and understated. It shows up in ways that may not seem obvious at first glance. The truth is, love that whispers instead of shouts can feel confusing, especially if expecting grand declarations. But think about how many times has someone done something small yet meaningful for you that spoke volumes? Maybe they fixed something in your house without you asking or made sure you ate when you were too busy. That's love too. Not everyone is wired to express love in big, demonstrative ways. Some people are more reserved, and that doesn't mean they care any less. It just means their love is layered and often communicated through actions instead of words. What matters is recognizing the intention behind their behavior. There's also an element of trust and quiet love, where someone doesn't feel the need to constantly prove their feelings to you. It's often because they know their love is consistent. They trust that you know it too. It's less about making noise and more about being steady. So don't mistake quietness for indifference. Sometimes the strongest love is the one that doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops. It's the love that's present even when it's not vocal. It's the kind of love that's always there, even in silence. We live in a world where constant connection is expected. If someone loves you, shouldn't they always be around, always be available? But here's the truth, love doesn't always mean closeness. Sometimes love means giving space. It's recognizing that being apart doesn't diminish the bond, it strengthens it. When someone gives you space, it's often a sign of respect. They respect your individuality and your need to grow on your own. They understand that you can't pour into a relationship from an empty cup, so they let you refill yours. This isn't neglect, it's maturity. Space also prevents dependency. Healthy love isn't about clinging to each other all the time. It's about being strong enough as individuals to come together without losing yourselves. When someone loves you enough to let you be your person, that's a deep form of care. However, it's easy to misinterpret space as distance. You might start to wonder if they're pulling away or losing interest. But instead of jumping to conclusions, consider this: maybe they're giving you what they know they need for themselves too. Love isn't always about constant proximity. Sometimes it's about allowing each other to breathe. Space allows love to grow. It gives both of you time to reflect, recharge, and fake what you have. Instead of fearing the gaps, try to see them as opportunities to strengthen the bond when you come back together. When you're deeply loved, it can feel so secure that it's almost invisible. Over time, familiarity with that love might make it seem like it's no longer there. You start to wonder why they don't put in as much effort as they used to. But sometimes that comfort is the very proof of their love. Complacency doesn't mean they've stopped caring. It often means they feel safe with you, so safe that they no longer feel the need to prove their love daily. They trust that their love has laid a foundation solid enough to weather the quiet seasons. Think of it like a well-built home. In the beginning, there's excitement about decorating and organizing, but eventually you settle into the comfort of simply living in it. The effort becomes less visible, but the foundation remains just as strong. That's what love often looks like over time. But complacency can also lead to misunderstandings. You might feel like they've stopped trying while they feel like they've earned the right to relax. This is where communication becomes crucial. Instead of assuming the worst, talk to them. Ask what's on their mind and share how you're feeling. Remember, love isn't about grand gestures every day. It's about the little consistent ways they show up for you, even if it's not as obvious as it used to be. Don't mistake comfort for indifference. Sometimes it's the highest form of trust. We all have our love languages. Some people express love through words, others through actions, and some through time or touch. If you expect someone to love you exactly the way you love them, you might miss out on recognizing their unique way of showing it. For example, someone might not be great at saying, "I love you," but they'll show it by fixing your car or making sure you're safe. That's their way of expressing what they feel. If you're only looking for verbal affirmations, you'll miss the love they're pouring into you through their actions. It's easy to feel unloved when someone's way of expressing it doesn't match your expectations. But love isn't about forcing someone to change who they are. It's about learning to see their efforts and appreciating them for what they are, not what you wish they'd be. When you're loved by someone with a different love language, it requires patience and understanding. Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what's present. Ask yourself, what are they doing to show they care? Often you'll find the answer in their actions, not their words. The beauty of love is in its diversity. Instead of expecting uniformity, celebrate the fact that they love you in a way that's authentic to them. It might not look the way you imagine, but it's real and it's theirs to give. Love doesn't erase the challenges of life. The person who loves you might be dealing with their battles, ones they don't always share. It's easy to feel ignored when their attention seems to waver, but often it's because they're trying to keep everything else in balance. Stress, work, personal struggles, these can all take a toll on someone's ability to show up consistently. It's not that they don't care about you, it's that they're human. Love doesn't make someone immune to the pressures of life. Think about the times you felt overwhelmed. Did it mean you loved the people in your life any less? Of course not. It just meant you needed time to deal with your issues before you could fully focus on them again. The same goes for the one who loves you. Instead of assuming their distance is about you, try to offer understanding. Ask if there's something they need or a way you can support them. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply be patient while they navigate their struggles. Love isn't always easy or convenient. It requires grace and understanding, especially when the person you love is carrying a weight you can't see. Supporting them through those moments is one of the most powerful ways to show you care. Real love is not about instant gratification. It's not about getting everything you want when you want it. Love, in its truest form, will test your patience. It will require you to endure moments of doubt, misunderstanding, and even frustration. But these tests aren't there to break you, they're there to strengthen you. When someone truly loves you, they're not always going to be perfect. They'll make mistakes, take you for granted at times, and test the limits of your endurance. This doesn't mean their love is flawed, it means their love is human. Perfection doesn't exist in relationships, only growth does. Love that's worth having doesn't come easy. Sometimes you'll feel ignored or undervalued. But instead of jumping to conclusions, ask yourself, is this a temporary phase or is it a pattern? True love will come with rough patches, but it will also show you the effort to repair what's broken. Patience in love means accepting that good things take time to develop. It means understanding that the person who loves you might not always meet your expectations right away. But if they're consistently trying, that's what matters. Love isn't about being perfect today, it's about being better tomorrow. Testing patience doesn't mean playing games or being hurtful. It means pushing each other to grow, even when it's uncomfortable. Love is a journey, and patience is the fuel that keeps it moving forward. It's not about how quickly you arrive, it's about the strength you build along the way. Sometimes the best way to show love is by holding back. It's not about ignoring you or being distant, it's about giving you room to breathe. The person who loves you deeply knows that too much attention can feel overwhelming. So instead of crowding you, they step back. This doesn't mean they love you any less. It's a sign of emotional intelligence. They understand that healthy relationships aren't built on constant contact, but on mutual trust and independence. They're not trying to smother you. They're trying to nurture a relationship where both of you can thrive. It's easy to misinterpret this space as neglect. You might wonder why they're not texting you every hour or checking in constantly. But think about this. Do you want a love that's built on insecurity? Or do you want a love that's confident enough to let you be yourself? Healthy love requires balance. It's about knowing when to step forward and when to step back. The person who loves you and gives you space isn't being cold, they're being considerate. They're showing you that they trust you to maintain the connection, even when they're not hovering. Love that doesn't smother is love that lasts. It's love that understands the value of freedom and respects the individuality of both people. Instead of clinging, it allows the bond to grow naturally, creating a relationship that's both strong and sustainable. Words are easy to say. I love you can roll off the tongue without much thought. But love isn't about what someone says, it's about what they do. The person who truly loves you might not always express it verbally, but their actions will tell you everything you need to know. Look for the ways they show up for you. Do they check in when you're having a bad day? Do they remember the little things that matter to you? Do they make sacrifices, big or small, to ensure your happiness? These actions speak volumes, even when words fall short. It's natural to want verbal affirmation, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't let a lack of words make you blind to the ways they're showing love through their behavior. A person who loves you through their actions is someone who's invested in your well-being. Actions are harder to fake than words. It's easy to say, I'll always be there for you, but it's another thing entirely to show up consistently, especially during tough times. Pay attention to what they do, not just what they say. That's where the truth lies. When someone loves you through their actions, it's a deeper form of care. It's not about putting on a show, it's about making sure you feel supported, valued, and safe. Don't underestimate the power of silent love sometimes. It's the loudest of all. Love and communication don't always go hand in hand. The person who loves you deeply might not always know how to express it in a way that resonates with you. Miscommunication doesn't mean they don't care, it just means they're human, navigating the complexities of relationships like everyone else. When you feel ignored, it's easy to assume the worst. But before jumping to conclusions, take a step back and ask yourself, could this be a misunderstanding often? The answer is yes. The love is still there. It's just lost in translation. Miscommunication happens because we all have different ways of expressing and receiving love. Maybe they think they're showing you care by solving practical problems while you're looking for emotional reassurance. Neither approach is wrong, it's just a matter of alignment. The key is to talk openly. Instead of bottling up frustration, have a conversation about what you need and ask them what they need in return. Love grows stronger when both people make the effort to understand each other's perspectives. Remember, love isn't perfect, and neither is communication. There will be moments of disconnect, but they don't define the relationship. What matters is the willingness to bridge the gap and find a common language of love. Loving someone doesn't mean abandoning yourself. The person who loves you might take time to focus on their well-being, and that's not a sign of neglect. It's a sign of strength. Self-love and love for others can coexist. In fact, they should. When someone steps back to work on themselves, it's often because they want to be their best self for you. They understand that they can't pour from an empty cup, so they take the time to refill it. This isn't selfishness, it's self-awareness. It's easy to feel hurt when someone prioritizes themselves, but think about it this way. Would you rather have a partner who's burned out and running on fumes, or someone whole and present? Their self-care is an investment in the relationship, not a withdrawal. This doesn't mean they don't have responsibilities toward you. Balance is key. While they work on themselves, they should still make an effort to reassure you that their love hasn't wavered. Self-love and relationship love aren't opposing forces, they're complementary. Learning to support someone's self-love journey requires maturity. It means trusting that their temporary focus on themselves doesn't mean they've stopped focusing on you. It's about understanding that their growth benefits both of you in the long run. Love isn't about the little moments of doubt or the occasional lapses in attention. It's about the overall pattern, the big picture. The person who loves you might not always get it right at the moment, but when you zoom out, you'll see the consistency of their care. It's easy to fixate on one bad day or one missed opportunity. But love isn't a snapshot, it's a mosaic. You have to look at all the pieces together to understand its true depth and beauty. The person who loves you might stumble occasionally. They might forget to call or fail to notice something important. But when you look at the bigger picture, ask yourself, are they there for me when it matters? Do they prioritize me in the long run? If the answer is yes, that's real love. Focusing on the big picture also means giving grace. Nobody is perfect, and expecting perfection will only lead to disappointment. Love is about appreciating the effort and intention, even when the execution is flawless. When you step back and see the whole picture, you'll realize that love isn't about the little missteps. It's about the steady, enduring presence of someone who's committed to you even when they falter. Not all love is loud or constant. Sometimes love needs quiet moments to deepen and mature. The person who loves you might step back not because they're drifting away, but because they're allowing the relationship to breathe. Silence can feel uncomfortable, especially in a world that values constant interaction. But in love, silence can be a space for reflection, growth, and appreciation. It's in those quiet moments that you often realize just how much someone means to you. When someone takes a step back, it's not always a sign of indifference. Sometimes it's a way to give both of you time to miss each other and reconnect on a deeper level. Absence, when paired with trust, can make the heart grow fonder. Love that grows in silence is love that's built on a strong foundation. It doesn't rely on constant validation or reassurance. It knows that the bond is secure, even when words are few and far between. Instead of fearing the silence, embrace it. Use it as an opportunity to reflect on the relationship and appreciate the ways they've shown their love over time. Silence isn't the absence of love, it's often where love finds its strength. In the real world, love doesn't always look like the movies. The person who loves you might not always be showering you with romantic gestures, not because they don't care, but because life demands their attention elsewhere. Love often shares space with responsibilities. When someone loves you, they want to build a life with you, a future that's secure and fulfilling. That might mean they're focused on their career, family obligations, or personal growth. It's not that their love has taken a back seat, it's that their love drives them to take care of what matters most. It's easy to misinterpret this shift in focus as a lack of interest, but think about the bigger picture. They're working hard, not just for themselves, but for the relationship. They want to ensure that you both have stability and the foundation for a strong future together. Romance is important, but it can't always take center stage. Sometimes love is about sacrifice and prioritizing long-term goals over short-term desires. It's not always flowers and candlelit dinners. It's also late nights working, tough decisions, and the determination to keep going for the sake of the partnership. Recognize the effort behind their actions. Even if the romance feels a little distant, the love is still there, woven into everything they're doing. True love isn't just about the moments of passion, it's about the commitment to a shared journey, even when life gets demanding. When someone loves you deeply, it can bring up your insecurities. You might wonder why they don't call as often as you'd like, or why they seem distracted. Love, in its complexity, can make you question your worth. But this isn't a sign of their failure, it's an opportunity for growth. Insecurity is a natural part of relationships. We all have moments when we doubt ourselves or worry that we're not enough. The challenge is to separate your fears from their actions. Their occasional distance isn't a reflection of your value, it's often about their struggles or circumstances. Love has a way of shining a light on the places where you need to heal. If you find yourself feeling overlooked, ask yourself why. Is it because they're truly neglecting you, or is it because an old wound is being triggered? Self-awareness is key to understanding the dynamics of love. Instead of letting insecurity drive a wedge between you, use it as an opportunity to communicate and grow. Share your feelings openly without blame and give them the chance to reassure you. Love thrives in honesty and vulnerability. True love doesn't promise to eliminate your insecurities, but it does offer a safe space to confront and overcome them. When you work through these challenges together, you create a bond that's not just strong, but unbreakable. Love isn't static, it evolves. The person who loves you might not always show it in the same way because life is constantly changing. What matters is whether their love adapts and endures through the seasons of your relationship. There will be times when love feels effortless and other times when it feels like hard work. These shifts don't mean the love has faded, they mean it's growing. Change is inevitable, and real love finds a way to survive and thrive in the face of it. When life throws challenges your way, whether it's career pressures, health struggles, or personal transitions, love might take on a quieter role. The gestures might become smaller, the words less frequent, but the foundation remains strong. Real love doesn't crumble under the weight of change, it bends and adjusts. It's important to recognize that love isn't always about grand displays. Sometimes it's about sticking together when things get tough. It's about holding on, even when the spark feels dim. Love isn't defined by the easy moments, it's proven in the hard ones. Through every season, real love shows resilience. It might not always look the way it did in the beginning, but that doesn't mean it's any less real. Love that survives change is often the strongest because it's built on a foundation of trust, respect, and unwavering commitment. Love isn't always what we expect it to be. It doesn't always come wrapped in constant attention, daily affirmations, or dramatic displays. Sometimes love is quieter. It shows up in the gaps, the pauses, and the spaces that can feel uncertain if you're not looking closely. The one who loves you a lot might ignore you at times, not out of malice or indifference, but because they're human. They might be balancing their burdens, showing love in a way you don't immediately recognize, or giving you the space to thrive. Real love is nuanced and its expression isn't always obvious. Look for the patterns. Pay attention to the actions, the consistency, and the effort, even when it's subtle. True love isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about being there for the long haul, even when the road gets bumpy. So the next time you feel overlooked or underappreciated, pause before you judge. Ask yourself if their love is showing up in ways you might have missed. Love isn't about meeting every expectation. It's about creating a connection that grows deeper with understanding and grace. Ultimately, love isn't just what you feel, it's what you believe in. Trust that the one who loves you a lot is still there, even in the quiet moments. Sometimes love's greatest strength lies in its ability to endure, even when it seems invisible.